Hey, welcome back, everybody. Good Monday. Hopefully we're having a wonderful one out there, and things are really picking up out there here in the world of weather, from ongoing severe weather really through much of this week to a sign of development ongoing in the tropics. In fact, we saw a pretty big uptick in the overnight models, and I've been telling you for the past week or so, I think those last couple of days of August into the first week of September, things will really start to pick up again, and that's what it's looking like now. Although, again, we do still have time to monitor this, and we obviously will for you, but again, definitely a growing signal for development, and that could impact land here within the next 7 to 10 days. So if you're new here, welcome. My name is Gerald. I'm a meteorology major at the University of North Carolina, Charlotte, here to give you the latest information on that weather forecast. If you haven't already, definitely hit that subscribe button, hit the bell for the latest notifications, like the video. If you're new to the channel, comment, let me know where you're watching from, and if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much. Also leave a comment, let me know what you're seeing out there in your neck of the woods this morning. Now, with all that said, let's go ahead and jump right into that forecast, because again, we do have a lot to discuss today, from the tropics to severe weather to potentially even more trouble in the long range here back home. So we'll start with the tropics like we normally do, and taking a look at satellite imagery right now, still a pretty quiet scene in the Atlantic, especially considering it is kind of the last week of August here and getting very close to September. But you'll notice we do have a bit of a monsoonal trough here in the main development region. That intertropical convergence zone is definitely there and active. The main reason things have been quiet, though, is just nothing has really been able to consolidate out of this ITCZ. But there is a chance that could happen here going towards this weekend and into next week. Now, outside of that, we do also have some thunderstorm activity here along this stalled frontal boundary, which has really just been here for a while now through portions of the Atlantic, not far off the Canadian and United States coastline. Also, a little swirl here just off of Texas that actually tracked across the Gulf of Mexico over the past couple of days, and is spinning pretty good at the mid-levels, but just never got quite to the surface, which is good news, because it'll bring some beneficial rainfall while not bringing some of those more, usual tropical impacts such as wind or surge. So lucky there, and luck is definitely something we'll want for the rest of hurricane season, because again, we have a way to go here before things are all said and done. Now, the latest from the National Hurricane Center still does not call for anything within the next 7 days, and I think this is the right decision. But what I'll tell you is, if the models continue with the trend that they're going at, we very well could see this map change, and we could see some yellow showing up potentially as early as this afternoon, overnight, or tomorrow. If not by then I definitely expect within the next couple of days, if the models keep up with the current trends, that we will see some area kind of drawn here over the Atlantic. And you're probably wondering, well, why is that? Well, latest ensembles from overnight and this morning, these are the latest GFS ensembles, right hot off the press here. A pretty noticeable uptick in activity here, especially in this area right here from the Antilles and northward. You'll notice the GFS is really starting to lock on to the potential of a wave, and a lot of these members get it pretty strong here. This goes out to 10 days from now, so this would be out to September 5th. You'll notice a lot of these members showing some sort of storm system in the Caribbean or in the Southwest Atlantic. So, it's definitely a pretty big uptick from what we saw just a day or two ago. In fact, a couple of days ago, there was really nothing on this map. But we take a look at it now, and again, you'll notice things are definitely trending upwards. Same story for the European and its ensemble members. In fact, the Europeans even more tightly clustered here, right near the Antilles and near Puerto Rico and up into the Southwest Atlantic. Again, this is 10 days from now. So we've still got probably about 5 or 7 days, or probably even 7 or 8 days until anything were to really even get close to land here. But you will notice, again, a lot of our models are hinting that something may try to get going here in the kind of medium to long term. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at a couple models here. No model technically really develops this into anything huge right now, at least on the deterministic side of things, but oftentimes the ensembles start and then the deterministic models catch on. So we'll watch through the next couple of days to see if we get any bigger model runs, but I will show you the latest European model, and it does try to get something going here. Now, this is going into this weekend. This is Friday into Saturday. Notice right here, this is the wave of interest, if you will, and it kind of begins to consolidate throughout this week. Again, today's Monday. This is this coming Friday, Saturday. Still no actual development. but it does start to get its act together. So again, we're going to have plenty of time to watch this. But you'll notice low pressure tries to form at the surface there, and even kind of, maybe does, but still really just an open wave, although a consolidating one here by the time we get about 7 days from now. Again, this would be next Monday. And moving generally in the direction of the Antilles as a weak tropical depression, or maybe even still an open wave, or potentially a little bit stronger depending on conditions. Now that's one model run. I'll also show you the icon model, which also kind of latches onto this idea, and we'll move this ahead into time. Again, watch that same general area. Here we go. This is Friday, so later this week something tries to get going in this same area, a little bit quicker than the European model probably, but nonetheless does develop some low pressure here at the surface, even closes it off more than the European, and we've got a bit of a tropical storm here at that Monday timeframe next week, again moving towards the Antilles or Puerto Rico. Now whether that moves through those islands to the north of those islands, it's way too early to tell, and strength is definitely way too early to tell. All that assuming anything even develops. Now, in terms of environmental conditions for this storm, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, but it is definitely conducive enough during near peak hurricane season that you would expect some sort of development. So this is this Saturday afternoon. This is the European, and this is relative humidity kind of in the layers of the atmosphere that you would need higher amounts of humidity for a tropical system to form here, from 700 to 300 millibars. So kind of the upper low levels into the upper levels of the atmosphere here. And this kind of circled area on your map, that's our wave. Again, you'll notice it's got its own nice little pocket here of moisture to work with, although to the north, we are dealing with some pretty, feisty dry air there. So that could try to limit it a little bit, but this storm, what it's got going for it is it's so far south right now, latitude-wise, that it's able to avoid that dry air for at least a little bit. And if it can get a core going before running into that dry air, it'll have a much higher likelihood of, being able to form. And that's kind of what happens here. Although, again, it does run into some dry air as it nears the island. So not a perfect environmental situation for development, but it is conducive enough. We could see something try to get going here. And wind shear wise, again, here is that area of low pressure, or that wave. Wind shear actually relatively favorable. If you look at the direction here of the wind shear, it's actually kind of fanning out the system. And again, here in this intertropical convergence zone has its own area of some lower shear value. So wind shear does look relatively conducive for this storm, but with dry air can be conducive at times, we'll definitely see. But these sort of ingredients can change pretty quickly in the atmosphere. So I'll definitely keep you updated on it there. But all signs are pointing that things in the tropics are going to be getting a little bit more active here in the medium to long run. Now, unfortunately, that's not the only thing we're kind of having to watch here. We also have a pretty big risk of severe weather this afternoon, tomorrow afternoon, and even Wednesday afternoon, and potentially after that as well here, as we've got a couple systems we're working with. So let's take a look at the water vapor loop here. This does a great job at showing kind of where the players are on the field here for today's severe weather setup. And it all starts back here. Notice this little area of low pressure that is kind of over Wyoming right now, or this morning. And throughout the day today, this will slowly try to pull northward through the Dakotas and Minnesota. And eventually that'll spark off enough forcing at the surface that we could get some very feisty storms through the Dakotas, Nebraska, Iowa, Minnesota, and even Wisconsin this afternoon and overnight tonight. And then tomorrow, this will shift to the east. Now, that's not the only severe weather threat we have today. Look at this other part that we're seeing here on water vapor loop. This kind of area of low pressure here over portions of Maine at the upper levels. What this is doing is this is pulling down some pretty strong flow out of the north, and we're almost going to get a northwest flow-like event today through the northeast, kind of how you would get lake effect snow in the winter. But today, it's going to bring some strong storms through portions of, again, the northeast. Now, outside of that, again, we also have this area moving through Texas. That's bringing some much needed rainfall. And everywhere else kind of in between through this kind of circled area on your map. Well, actually, let me recircle that. I don't want to circle all those areas. More like in here. It's going to be a pretty nice day today where we're kind of sandwiched in between all of this. We've got some high pressure still at the surface, and things are going to be warming up. But still a pretty active scene today, and this will continue through the next couple of days. But if we take a look at radar imagery, again, we're already seeing some of those showers and storms in the places we would expect them today. Again, the northeast seeing some showers with that northwest flow, seeing plenty of showers through the northern Rockies and the northern Great Plains. Also some showers here through the Gulf Coast states where we have that stalled out frontal boundary and that little tropical disturbance moving on through Texas. So again, a good bit to track here to start the week, and some of this is definitely going to evolve into a bigger problem by the time we get into this afternoon. All right, so latest severe weather outlook for today. We do have an enhanced risk up for the Twin Cities through much of South Dakota, but even look at this slight risk. This slight risk, stretches. It's still early in the morning, sorry. Stretches from portions of Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan all the way back towards Wyoming and Nebraska. So a lot of folks having that threat of severe weather today. And again, that's not the only area. Even the Northeast and portions of the Mid-Atlantic here under the gun for strong to severe storms. So it's going to be multiple areas on the map we're going to have to watch today. And all of this is going to slowly shift eastbound through the next couple of days. So the Northeast, you're going to get rid of that one problem today, but then this other area is going to kind of shift eastbound by the time we get into Tuesday and Wednesday. So it's going to be a pretty active couple of days. The good news, if you're kind of down here into portions of the Ohio River Valley, still dealing with some of those nicer conditions as most of the severe weather should stay to the north of you going into today. But I also do want to note we do have a tornado threat today, and that's something we're going to want to watch out for definitely here. And I just realized that wasn't kind of on the right thing, but that's okay. So again, we do have a 5% chance of a couple tornadoes today within a 25-mile radius here through portions of let me think of directions here. Southwestern Minnesota, really the entire southern half of Minnesota, and the eastern half of South Dakota. So it's gonna be an active afternoon. Now, this is the tornado threat. I didn't show you the wind and hail threat, but those two are still the highest threat level today. In fact, if I go back one map, anywhere in that yellow area through the north central plains is going to have the threat for very strong straight line winds, potentially up to hurricane force at times, and very large hail. I mean, we could see definitely baseball, softball size hail, maybe larger than that. And the main reason for that today is just because we have a lot of energy in the atmosphere that is really going to kind of promote some of that severe weather growth. So let's take a look at that severe weather threat this afternoon and how it's kind of going to unfold. This is getting into this afternoon and evening, and it's kind of a 1-2 punch in a way here. Now, through Minnesota, we're going to get potentially a couple discrete cells to fire up during these hours here into northern Nebraska. Look at that cell. That is what we're going to want to really watch for a tornado potential. Definitely could cause problems, but behind it, again, that's just the first wave. So this is getting, well past sunset here. This is probably about 9-10 o'clock local time here. Again, take an hour off of that forecast time you see at the top right. That's an Eastern. So if you're using Central Time here, again, more like, 10 o'clock or so this evening. But we've got a couple, batches of storms here that we're tracking through this area. So some of you could get multiple rounds of storms. The Twin Cities, you can get one round kind of during the evening hours and going past sunset a little bit, and then another round back towards the Dakotas. And again, there's plenty of atmospheric fuel here. So, the low-level jet's going to increase here during the overnight hours. The tornado threat will stay pretty prevalent through the evening hours and probably past sunset a little bit as well here. But all this is just going to slowly work eastbound. Strong straight line winds, large hail, a couple tornadoes. Again, all threats on the table here, even working into Wisconsin during the overnight hours. Again, this is getting past midnight, and we still got very feisty storms here in these regions. And even potentially down into Nebraska, some leftover strong storms. So another thing I want you to notice here is, again, I think the tornado threat will be the highest at the beginning of the event, why those cells are still kind of discrete. But as we get into the overnight, look at how these storms kind of complex up together, and some of these kind of bow. That definitely spells trouble for strong winds. And definitely not expecting necessarily a derecho out of this, but we could see, a short-lived, pretty good mesoscale convective complex here, or system, I guess I should say, if we want to be extra meteorological about it. That could bring some very strong straight-line winds. So I am worried about that for sure overnight tonight. You're going to want to have a way to get those warnings, have that NOAA weather radio, have some way to get, woken up should you be put under a tornado warning, and just probably a good night to, don't sleep too hard, I guess, is the best way to put that. Now, by the time we get into tomorrow morning, that complex of storms will likely be over portions of Michigan through the UP of Michigan, even working towards the thumb of Michigan, and throughout Tuesday afternoon, we'll continue to work on through Michigan, and we'll likely see another flare-up of storms during the afternoon of Tuesday with more severe weather. We'll take a look at that here in just a second, but quickly, just to show you our updraft helicity for these storms this afternoon, we are expecting, again, some storms to be rotating. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean all these tracks you see will be tornado tracks. These are just where the storms have the highest or the strongest updraft and kind of rotating updraft, I should say. So you'll notice a couple, trouble spots here through South Dakota as that second complex of storms works on through. But even here, we could see some stronger, oops, sorry, I did not mean to do that. We could see some stronger storms here through, again, central Minnesota and into portions of Wisconsin as well. So we're going to see some very feisty storms. They're going to have a lot of lift in them. They're going to be spinning. Definitely, I think a couple tornadoes will be possible, especially with those more discrete cells. But still, the main threat will probably be straight line winds and some large hail with this setup. So we're going to be watching out for that. Again, the Northeast also could see some strong storms this afternoon. This is getting into about 3, 4, 5 o'clock tonight. Notice some of these storms firing up again, moving north to south across the Northeast. Some of them even trying to get down here into the Mid-Atlantic. Remember, that marginal risk spread, even for you folks down there. Main threats with these will also be large hail, I think. We've got a pretty low freezing level today, so just meaning that these raindrops are not going to have to go very far up into these storms to begin to freeze on their descent back to the ground. Also, some strong straight line winds with some pretty good downdraft energy this afternoon. So we'll see that through the afternoon, through the evening hours. Good news for the Northeast. This probably clears up past the midnight hour, so it's really going to be more of an evening severe weather threat for you folks compared to an evening and overnight threat that we're going to see back towards the Great Plains. All right, today is not the only day of severe weather, though. We'll take a look at tomorrow as well. You'll notice that whole slight risk shifts off to the east a little bit here. So Michigan, Wisconsin, even into kind of portions of Erie, Pennsylvania, Cleveland could see some strong storms, but really anywhere in this marginal risk even could see some strong storms tomorrow afternoon. Main threat, again, strong straight line wind, large hail, but can now rule out a tornado or two. And then we'll do it all again on Wednesday. And what I want you to notice about Wednesday is how the map kind of evolves a little bit here. We go from just a one area to kind of a couple areas. So again, that big area shifting even further east into the I-95 corridor, down into portions of the Ohio River Valley, the Mid-Atlantic, much of Pennsylvania, New York City, northern New Jersey, Connecticut, again, Detroit. A lot of these places are going to be under the gun Wednesday, but behind it, a new area forms, and we'll take a look at why that is here in just a second. But this second area could produce bigger problems in the long run, as there are signs another storm system could impact the country this weekend, bringing some severe weather, but also maybe another cool down. So it's a pretty active end to August here for sure. And let's go ahead and time this out for you a little bit. I'm actually going to start on this afternoon because, again, I want everyone here east of the Rockies to kind of see what they can expect this afternoon, not just the folks who are going to see severe weather. So I will mention this afternoon and evening, some pop-up storms through Florida, the Gulf Coast states down into southern Texas as well could see some strong storms. So just be aware of that. Again, obviously still dealing with the severe weather we just mentioned in these other parts of the map, but I just realized I kind of drew a smiley face there. You see that? Here's one eyeball, here's another eyeball, and here's a smiley face. There we go. Didn't even plan that. See? Anyway, definitely not something that matters, but so some showers and storms through, again, the Gulf Coast states this afternoon, especially Florida, which has been, really the theme the past week or so. So we'll definitely watch out for that. Now we get into tomorrow, and also I'll mention everywhere else, again, through the Mid-South and the Ohio River Valley, another nice afternoon. It'll be warmer than it has been. It'll start to get muggy again, but at least no rainfall in that forecast. All right, so Tuesday afternoon, again, expecting that first round of storms through Michigan and Wisconsin during the morning, even portions of Canada. If you're watching kind of up in this area, definitely expecting some strong storms during the morning and early afternoon hours of tomorrow. But it's the evening hours we're likely going to get another flare-up of showers and storms here, and even into the overnight, more storms developing here in that new marginal and slight risk for tomorrow. Again, strong straight line winds and some large hail could become a concern, and then even some of those storms, again, getting through Montreal, Quebec, portions of southern Canada here, into some of these higher populated cities. So going to want to watch out for that as well here overnight tomorrow into Wednesday. And then again, that's as far out as this model goes into the overnight there. But then we switch to our American model, and we'll move this into Wednesday morning and Wednesday afternoon. And here you go. Sure enough, more storms firing up here in that slight risk that we have on day 3. So it's going to be an eventful couple of days here for sure. I've definitely got my eyes on it. Again, every day we'll update you more on that day's threat and the next day. But 3 days out, our convective models just don't quite go that far. So, we'll keep you updated. Definitely want to come back tomorrow for that video for an updated look here. But again, this could just be the beginning of a pretty active week for multiple folks here, and here's why. So I'm going to back this up just a little bit. This is tomorrow afternoon. You notice we have a little bit of a trough here with some low pressure in the mid-levels. That's what's leading to all this severe weather tomorrow, but look at what's behind it. A bigger, stronger trough here, almost a bowling ball look to it. That's going to swing through some of the same areas, and that's why whenever we get to Wednesday afternoon, we have multiple areas of severe weather. Again, that leftover severe weather in the northeast, but then this new area bringing another area of severe weather back to the Dakotas, Nebraska, Minnesota for Wednesday, and that could track even further east once again. Through our Thursday afternoon, more severe weather will be likely, I think, through portions of the Midwest, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa with a look like this. And then Friday, potentially into the Great Lakes region. And then that swings up into Canada, and you think, all right, cool, we're good for the weekend. But then a second kind of area gets pulled down as that pulls up into Canada. Another area of some lower heights here pulls down south. And about a week from now, look at this, another big time trough on the European model is trying to dump over the United States here over the eastern half of the country. And this could lead to another big time cool down as well as stormy weather on the front end of it. So what could this look like? Well, we'll move this into Thursday afternoon here. Again, here's that next area. Also, sorry, my phone's blowing up over here. Hopefully you can't hear that. But here's that next area of low pressure, again, kind of working on through and starts pretty feisty, occludes pretty quickly though, just meaning it'll be relatively short-lived, but it could nonetheless bring a cold front with it that could bring some feisty storms through much of the eastern half of the country to end this work week. And then should that second area of lower pressure swing down, we could see another increase in some stormy activity. But look at this. This is, 7 to 10 days from now, probably about 7-8 days, another big area of high pressure working through. That's going to bring cooler air. It's going to bring nicer air. And if we take a look at those temperature anomalies, you'll be able to see that. Now, this is this afternoon. Again, it's going to stay hot today for a lot of folks in the east. Tuesday afternoon, more of the same. It's going to stay that way through this week. But watch what happens here. Again, here's that next trough. That tries to work on through. Definitely, again, going to bring cooler temperatures through the Pacific Northwest, where you folks have been feeling more like winter than summer here the past couple of days with some of that high elevation snow and these ongoing storm systems. Again, probably going to get more high elevation snow out of this one. So while we're dealing with the cold up here, it's going to stay hot in the southeast. Again, going to feel like summer again for most of us this week. But then we get towards this weekend, and here comes that cooler pocket of air. I say this weekend, it's really early next week. It's probably going to be, average to slightly above average this weekend. But then here we go next week, another shot of cool air in the east, and that could really cool us down for a little bit here. So that's kind of the latest here. Again, we got a lot to talk about. The tropics, severe weather, we're starting to see that clash of seasons that you would normally expect as we go into September, and again, kind of through the last week of August here. So I do appreciate y'all watching though. Definitely subscribe if you haven't already. We're very close to 9,000 subs. Very easily could get there this afternoon. We're only like 15 people away, so very exciting times there. Like the video, comment, let me know where you're watching from. Have a great rest of your Monday. Stay safe out there if you're going to be impacted by some of that severe weather. Keep an eye to the sky, and I'll see you all tomorrow.